Theatre. She's also funded Living Ritual, Canada's only World Indigenous Dance Festival, as well as guest teaching for many organizations and institutions here in the U.S. Santee?
Hi, thank you. Thank you it's great to be here and be able to connect with everybody to discuss these interesting topics. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about the work that I do. I am from Six Nations, and my background is dance, and it is I studied classical ballet at the National Ballet School for 6 years, and also then living at Six Nations, I'm really connected to my own traditional dance forms as well. At a certain age, I just decided spontaneously that I didn't want to be a sugar plum fairy for my whole career, and sort of had an identity crisis, teenage years, and I moved back home and decided that I wasn't a dancer. I went to university and got a degree in kinesiology and psychology, and it wasn't until I moved and transferred to U of T to do some summer school courses going on into my 6th year of university, and just got swept up in the Aboriginal performing arts community in Toronto here, primarily with Native Earth performing arts. And Gary Farmer, friend of mine from Six Nations, was asking me, well, what are you doing? You should be creating, because he knew my background in dance. So he asked me to choreograph 2 pieces for an NFB documentary called The Gift. And The Gift was a documentary on the Indigenous relationship to corn. And within our community, we have corn dances. So we have specific ceremonial dances that are meant to celebrate corn, and many other things as well. We have all different types of dances to celebrate the natural cycles. So the problem with that is that we couldn't film a ceremony. So he asked me to interpret that connection, that important connection to culture that we couldn't share because it was ceremonial. So I was able to go into the studio by myself and start creating, and that was back in 1996. So since that time, I got swept right back into the performing arts and back into dancing and acting for a little bit, but back into dance. And since then, I've been creating work. As an independent choreographer, I was creating work from that period of time up until 2005. We incorporated as a company, Kaha Dance Theatre, and have been working full-time as the artistic director and the choreographer for Kaha Dance Theatre. During that time, identity comes through as an artist for me, because I choose to express my identity through my work. So, in all aspects of it, all aspects of being classically trained as a ballet dancer, so I have that in my body, desire to share some of my own historical stories, and also that real desire to create new, to be a creative force. So for me, what's most important is the art form, the actual time invested in the studio, developing the language of a dance. And so our company, Kaha Dance Theatre, is very artist-driven, artistic process-based. And that's the inspiration. The artistic vision is first and foremost. And then we create works, and we have been developing our repertoire. So we have about 8 major works that we have presented, created, and produced. And some of them do reflect traditional stories. Some of them are contemporary stories. Some of them, we have a production that we are touring now called The Story Before Time, which is based on the Iroquois creation story, the literal telling of that story that I grew up listening to, and we designed that for children to share with schools. And so that's something that's really important to me, to be able to share that aspect of our culture, and in a really positive way and a creative way. And then we also have a diverse range of work. So Michael Grey Eyes and I, another choreographer, created a piece called Transmigration, not Transmigration, that's our new piece, the Threshing Floor, which is a duet. And consciously, he and I decided that we wanted to create a work that just was about a couple, and we didn't have the trappings of Indianness or Aboriginalness to the work, and it was just about a couple. There weren't any traditional music. There wasn't traditional music. There was no traditional steps. It was about a couple, and we presented that at No Gym Theater in Peterborough to a diverse audience, so Native and just non-Native audiences. And it's been interesting to see, feel responses from the from presenters, from the audiences about the different types of work that we are presenting, and some of the questions that come up repeatedly through Q&A sessions and discussions about what we are doing as contemporary artists who happen to be from an Aboriginal background, and how we view ourselves and the type of work that we are creating. So that's just a little bit about myself as well. Aside from that, Gahawi Dance Theater in 2006, we founded the Living Ritual World Indigenous Dance Festival. At the time, I was finishing my master's in dance at York University and working on a project. It was a project that turned actually into a festival, and the purpose was to bring together Indigenous First Nations artists, dance artists, to share. So it was a mini conference, and to share our work on the stage, because up until 2006, and even today, it's a huge challenge to have our work presented on main stage theaters or in theaters in general. I think due to a lot of reasons, there have been challenges put in our path across Canada about how we can go out into the mainstream, go out and be represented and be visible on main stages, and for there to be a dialogue about the type of work that we are doing, because there is diversity within First Nation, and so we were trying to represent what was happening in the Canadian Aboriginal dance landscape. And so we had the festival, which was really great. And because the company is an artist creation production company, we weren't able to consistently present Living Ritual, although we do really want to keep, there's a need for it, and there's a need from within our community to consistently have this dialogue, have opportunities for people to present their work, and basically grow the field within the Aboriginal community, because it's diverse based on from nation to nation. It's diverse within a nation. People are creating a range of work, from very traditional based work to very contemporary cutting edge work, and large scale and small scale. So I think it's really important that awareness about specificity and diversity within First Nations is recognized as well. So hopefully we'll be having Living Ritual. It's in our plans in the near future, because it's a very needed forum for within our community, and to be able to share that with others. So I just wanted to define a little bit about what I do. For me, when I say the word contemporary, it just means new. And then there's a term that's floating around in the dance community about contemporary Aboriginal dance, is sort of a label that I use, because it's defines sort of what I'm doing. It's contemporary, it's Aboriginal, but that just means that it's created by an Aboriginal person, which happens to be me in this case. So it's Aboriginal because I'm Aboriginal, and that comes from my own sense of identity. So our company has had great success since 2005. We've grown like Like over 100%. We keep growing. We keep growing each year, and the barriers are not artistic. The barriers that we find, they're more to do with infrastructure for building our organization. They're getting higher and more access to funding. Within the funding, say for example, Canada Council, there's historical inequities that exist, so that although we do have an Aboriginal section, within that section it has a specific allotted budget, and it is not comparable to the National Ballet. And how can we be comparable to the National Ballet, which has a long history? But it's that disparity between organizations like myself, which are growing and growing, and have the opportunity and the need to be able to advocate for more support. And the sense of historical inequities come through in a lot of different ways, not only just funding, but within the Aboriginal dance community dancers, there's been the challenge is that there's historical inequities in terms of how to access training, how to access exposure even to the performing arts, how to access exposure to attending a performance, how to connect with other artists. So that's something that's out there. For myself, it's been a bit of a struggle because I do feel a pressure. Maybe it's self-imposed, but maybe it's I feel it from the outside as well, to sort of stage Native. Michael Gray has talked about that in his discussion with Canada Dance Festival about staging Native, that the work is in questions of authenticity. If the work has to be Native, well, it has to be starring Native people, and it has to be it has to have all the trappings of Aboriginalness that people have as preconceived notions, like feathers and beads, and it has to have drums and flutes and rattles and what else? Everything that people can identify immediately. That's authentic. And so the work that I'm doing, I choose to, yes, I do choose the content sometimes. I do choose to work with legends, but I don't want to be defined solely by that. So I do feel this outside pressure that I have to conform, or in order to be accepted, I have to have maybe I have to use the drum. So that's been a challenge, and it's been a discussion within our community as Aboriginal artists. It's been a long-standing issue about authenticity and preconceived expectations, and so a lot of the work that we do when we go out into the community and we have a performance is that we're investing a lot of our energy in education, which I don't mind doing, because that's important for us to be able to engage with communities and be able to engage with audiences, and also be able to have this dialogue with presenters to understand and come to a meeting about the work, that people are open to discussing a specific artist's approach, or talking about how to connect with an audience. If we're sharing a venue, for example, how can we both together work to build an audience, and talk about some of those barriers and preconceived notions, and how to smooth them, or how to be able to bring people into the work and not have it having still these misconceptions about what it is. So I think the important points for me in terms of the work that I do is continuity. That means that as a contemporary artist, I'm continuing culture, and Gahawi in Mohawk actually means to carry. It means, and it's also a family name. So that's what I feel